evening, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of UpStart in Goa. Okay, so I have everyone's attention here, I hope. Okay, so I'm Mansa, I'm your host for the evening. It gives us a lot of joy to have come here on the first ever edition of UpStart in Goa and see such a beautiful turnout. Thank you so much for coming. And so today, PayU is one of the leading payment service providers in India across sectors like SME, airlines, and of course the startup community. So these series that we do, like UpStart and CodeUp, are a series that we do as a part of our startup outreach program. We want to be doing every time we want to do something more for the startups. So UpStart is a series for startup entrepreneurs where other people in their own domain come and speak to them. And same goes for CodeUp as well, but CodeUp is a technical session where other domain experts come and have a chat about a certain topic, a trending topic. So this topic, today's session is UpStart, and the topic is starting up right. So there's no one way to start up right, or there's no one way to start up. So it's always better to learn from others' experiences and take back what is right or what is wrong, or what is the right thing to do when you are facing a certain issue. So today's edition of UpStart has 4 amazing speakers. Our first speaker for the evening is Greg. Our second speaker is Jason. Greg is from Earthlings Infotech. Jason is the founder of FUNL. Third speaker is Nilakur. He's the cultural practitioner and founder at DAS. And our last speaker for the evening is Shalini. She's the founder and IP attorney at SimSim. So the speakers are from 4 different domains, so you will be hearing from 4 different people about their experience and also about the starting up legal part of it from Shalini. So without further delay, I would like to call upon Greg to take up the stage.
Okay, so my name is Greg Acuna. I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I've been living in India for over 16 years. My home is here in Goa. My startup is Earthlings Infotech. Oh, thank you. The project is called Planet Earthlings. So, first, let me just tell you a little bit about my company. Didn't know there were going to be so many new faces. I'm going to watch some videos so you can see. We're a game development company with a special idea. We want to make games that can change the world. So we make games that are empowering. We have 2 parts of the project. We're creating an educational virtual world where young people become an alien avatar. They get in a spaceship and they go to planets based on what they want to study. So if you want to study algebra, you go to a 3D planet and you run around on the algebra planet and you can study with others by helping each other. So you can literally be watching educational videos in teams of other 4 people, where it could be students with you in the same classroom, it could be students on the other side of the world. And later you'll be able to get tutoring. So instead of getting tuition from the guy down your apartment block, you might have an IIT student in Delhi or an MIT student in America helping you learn. The other part of the project is a very low-tech thing. I think it's here. It's called Acting Kindly. It's a series of card games that are about spreading kindness. So we've just finished a successful crowdfunding campaign for the newest version, which is called Acting Kindly at School. And it's a game where young people are running around the school doing acts of kindness and finding things to spread joy. They're having fun. But what they're learning are key life skills. We go to school and all of a sudden we're constantly competing. We gotta win, we gotta be better. But when you leave school, it's not about competing anymore. It's about learning how to work in teams. So cooperation and collaboration are key skills that seem to be missing in our core education, and Acting Kindly is working on that. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today, I think. Okay. Entrepreneurship falls to avoid. So why should I be talking about this? And again, I'm American, so we have, I think, one huge advantage as entrepreneurs we celebrate failure. Okay? I have failed many times. Okay, and some of them have been magnificent failures. My last big failure was about 10 years ago. I had a project that had 125 people in 7 countries working on a animation live action TV project and games. We had 60 animators in Mumbai. Saru Khan did the choreography with me for the TV show. I directed 4 amazing child actors in Los Angeles green screen. We were on the cover of a national magazine. We signed with one of the top entertainment agents in the world in London. And in the fall of 2008, while we were just starting to push the TV show, the world economy collapsed. I lost most of my life savings. I failed. I dropped it. I'm back now doing a project that feels like it has a lot of potential for success. And a lot of what is happening here comes from what I learned there and before. Now, I've had successes. I was a part of a massive startup in Chicago where I had a successful exit. The thing is that worrying about what other people think of you is a huge problem for startups. Okay? So I'm going to talk about some of the things that are things that I mentored quite a few startups across India. People who know me either through incubators or just know me through LinkedIn. And there's things that are very common that people think. Okay? Okay. I have an idea. Okay, I have no idea. Right? How many investors are in the room? No investors? Okay. So a lot of people think you have an idea, you're going to find an investor, you're going to tell them this amazing idea, and they're going to give you money. It almost never happens. Okay? So first let's just check. How many of you run a startup now? Okay. How many people are thinking of an idea that they want to start up? Okay. Alright. So the process of going from idea through proof of concept, POC, to prototype, to product it's hard, and it can be, depending on what you're developing, expensive. So how do you do it? How do you do it? So most of you, again, I'm probably repeating a lot of stuff that you've heard of. You know, we have the idea that you start up, your first round of funding is from friends, family, and fools. Okay? So really, I highly recommend not wasting your time searching for investors when you're at the idea stage, because you can spend all your time trying to convince people, and I'll tell you, I was recently speaking at the largest game developers conference, and at the conference they invited me to pitch investors. I have a working prototype, right? 8 investors, all interested. All, yes, we're interested. Followed on also 3 of them. You know what all 3 of them said? Let us know when you're making money. Okay? And if you see the prototype of what we built, it's really impressive. Right? So just remember that. You're not going to get money right at the beginning. Figure out another way, and try to figure out a way to get to the next step. Right? So you think that the investors are coming, right? You're at that point. Now, one of the problems, and this is a follow-up to the first topic, is how much time can you spend talking to investors? Okay, now I was at an event in South Goa, I think almost 2 years ago, and it was very interesting. There were some guys from China. They said from the time they meet a project until the time they invest is between 18 and 24 months. Okay? This past week we were at the Seaside Startup Summit. I met 2 investors who both said it takes them 9 months to a year. Right? The cycle for getting money is going to take a long time. So then, this connects to, I was in Ahmedabad at an incubator, and they had a speaker come, an angel investor from Mumbai. It was really an interesting guy, it was really delightful. And he had an hour to speak, and he spent 45 minutes explaining to us why you shouldn't take money from investors. Okay, so the flip side of the investors coming is if you get to the point where they're actually interested, is they bring along a cloud package. Okay, are they going to understand your project? Are they going to want the project to go the same direction that you want the project to go? Okay, are they going to get your way? Are they going to cause trouble when you start running out of money? Okay, there's a lot of questions. So the second part of this is beware. Beware. Okay, be very careful. All right, so then you build it. Now this isn't about investors. This is about customers. You build something and you think, oh, I've got this product. People, it's just going to start selling. Right? I always tell people, my company has a huge disadvantage. Anybody know me? Anybody know what the big disadvantage of my company is? It's me. Because I don't like selling things. Right? So, I know that my company's a disadvantage because the thing that you need to keep your company going is going to be money. Right? And so I had to learn how to sell and do it that I don't want. I mean, I am looking for a CEO who wants to sell empowering games, but it's not going to happen by itself. So this idea that you've got this great idea, and then suddenly the moment you start telling people, it's just going to start selling. It's not going to happen that way. So this slide is really about coming up with a marketing plan. Coming up with a set of ideas, and very often, the biggest suggestion that I make to people that I mentor is you start small. Okay, so we just finished our crowdfunding campaign. We're going to start marketing the game in Goa. Okay, we're going to reach out, we're going to do some events, we're going to do some promotions, all centering around Goa. Okay, it's nice because if somebody needs me to run and explain the game or play the game or shoot video of them playing the game, we can do that. If we're successful doing it in Goa, then it becomes easier. Then you can go to another state and say, hey look, the government in Goa embraced this game, the government schools are playing it, how about you? Okay, so think about the plan. The plan should have steps. You should walk slowly through the steps, but at the same time, be ready, be aware of what's happening, so you can take advantage. And if you have to pivot, you have some new ideas, you can do that. Okay, so I'm glad that there's a lot of people here because this is something that I talk about at every single event that I speak at. There's a huge push for student entrepreneurs. Okay, and this is because of what I call the Zuckerberg challenge. Everybody believes that because Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook when he's 19, that it's actually common for young people to have successful startups. Does anybody have an idea what the average founder in the Silicon Valley, the age is? What do you think? What's the average age of a Silicon Valley founder? 39, 29? 32, 39. According to Entrepreneur Magazine, the average age of a startup founder in the Silicon Valley is 39. Why? Okay, why? Problem is that for those of you who are running a startup, you already know. For those who are thinking of running a startup, the news is it's really hard. Okay, it's sometimes torturous. I tell people that running a startup is like riding a roller coaster. It's really exciting, but often induces nausea. Okay, it's difficult, and one of the reasons it's difficult is you have to do a little bit of everything, and most of us aren't capable. You can't go from here I'm selling, here I'm creating, there I'm building. It's very difficult. So part of that is you're going to solve it with your startup teams, but I'm just very, very vocal about the fact that students who start companies, the number of startups that fail in the Silicon Valley with people at that age is tremendous. It's something like 98% or something like that. It's tremendous. If you come directly from college to do it, it's even worse. Okay? And then connected to that is something, there aren't that many really young people here, but it's something that, again, I love India, don't get me wrong, but the schools here, they try to kill your creativity. Okay? And this is bad.
this is really bad, because the key to innovation isn't engineering, it's creativity, right? And I'm saying this not as an insult, it's as a warning. Beware that you come from a system that does not encourage you to be creative, all right? I can tell you that probably 98 out of 100 startups I meet who think they're doing something innovative are doing something that at least 20 other companies are doing just in India. Okay? So push yourself to get past these ideas that are set on. And again, and celebrate failure. Okay. Okay, so how many people know about lean startups? Okay, so this is about a third. So the idea behind lean startups is that you're going to build a piece of what you want to build that is a minimal viable product. So you want to find out of what you're going to build, what part of that is something that somebody will pay for. And you're going to build it really quickly, and you're going to give it to your potential customer, and you're going to get feedback. And the feedback loop is very fast. Some companies, their feedback loops is measured in just days. Sometimes it's weeks, sometimes it's up to a few months. But the idea is that you're building stuff extremely quickly, you give it to your customer, and you find out, is that what they really wanted? And if it is, then you keep adding to it. If it's not, you go back to the drawing board, okay? But the problem then becomes, how lean is lean, okay? Balancing what you think that they want, okay, and what they're willing to even look at, right, is important. Now, there's some things you can do where you can literally just give a client, a potential customer, like a drawing. Okay, when we were first working on the Acting Kindly game, I went and I just printed out some cards, and we went to some kids and said, hey, let's run around and do these acts, right? And we saw. Then we had like a thing where we actually had kids in an event. We had like 400 kids draw their own cards, right? So we started integrating input directly into the process. So balancing this, all right, my suggestion is, even though it's very hard, you want something to be good enough that it's not like horrible. But if you can find a few people, and I'm not talking about your parents, okay? Your parents aren't going to be honest with you, okay? They're either going to tell you it's horrible, go back to school, or they're going to say, oh, this is the loveliest thing I've ever seen. Find some people who are really your potential clients, and it doesn't have to be many, but from the very beginning, show them what you're doing and figure things out. Okay. All right, so when you go to investors, okay, strangely enough, most investors will tell you they're more interested in your team than your idea. Why? The reason for that is that the right team, if it's a great team, is going to figure out a way to make the product work. If something's wrong, they're going to change it, they're going to pivot. And I've heard stories about teams that came into investors with one idea, and a few months later they were doing something completely different that succeeded quite well. All right? So finding the right team. Now, I was at a disadvantage when I started my company because I didn't grow up here. So I would love to have had a couple of co-founders. It wasn't an option because I didn't know anybody well enough to form a team. But if you're thinking of getting a startup, be very, very careful. All right? Make sure, there's a lot of people who talk about, startup founders, it's like getting married. Okay? So it's a journey that is full of difficulties, and when things get difficult, you need to make sure that your team is going to stick with you. Okay? So of those people who have startups, raise your hand again if you have a startup. And how many co-founders? How many co-founders do you have? Let's just raise how many solo co-founder you have. How many? 2, 5, 4, 2. Okay. So there's a lot written about this. I'm told, and I've read quite a lot saying that 2 is optimal, 3 is next, and then one would be a third choice. More than 3 is kind of unmanageable, okay? But one of the things I've seen, and it's probably the biggest pitfall that I've seen, is that I've met so many startups that will be 3 guys from business college, no tech guy. 3 tech guys, no business guy, okay? When I say the right team, you're looking for a balance. You know, you really want 3 main things. You want business, you want creative, and you want tech. Those are the 3 things you're looking for, okay? Is that it? Okay, so, all right, so I have this thing. So I come from a writing background. My master's degree is in writing theater. I've been a film writer, director. I've written theater, I've written TV, I've directed. And I consider myself a very lucky human being. I've spent most of my life doing exactly what I wanted. And how am I doing on time? I'm still okay? I'm almost. So he looked at me very funny. Okay. So the thing is that I tell people, you know, especially young people, my office is at SIBA in Masagel, and I get almost twice a week, they ask me to come talk to college students or even high school students. And I said, look, you know, I really believe that if you can find a way to make money from what you're passionate about, that it's just life is much nicer. You get up, you get to do what you want, even when it's challenging, at least you really want to be doing it, okay? But don't lose track of this thing, passion versus reality, okay? Check with others and keep an open mind. I'm not saying if somebody comes and says, that's the worst idea I've ever heard, forget it. I'm not saying accept that, okay? What I find is a lot of people in the startup world, and especially I come from writing, when you deal with writers, I can't tell you how many people have approached me to ask my help with their writing, and the moment I start to say something, they're like, no, what do you mean? Like, keep your eyes open and think about what they're saying. In the end, you have to make the decision. But if you have 10 people tell you, you know, and be careful. This is to say, if 10 people come to say that's a horrible idea, you know, I wouldn't immediately quit, because if there's like 10 people all in the same town, you may be dealing with the same people who simply don't understand. But just be careful of this problem, okay? That's it. So thank you very much. Can I take questions now? Okay. Thank you. Any questions? I can't imagine. I always make fun of, even today I spoke to a group of college students up at SIBA, and I always tell them that when I get to the end of talking, it's like the worst moment, because people don't have questions. And I'm like, where's your curiosity? It's like the key to learning. And is it that I'm just so boring that you don't have anything that's, or I just covered everything so well? There's really no questions? I can't even scare you with asking me a question? Anki, you have to toss me something. Save me, man. Even friends here, that's it.
Do we have any questions for Greg?
Okay.
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 Could you just a generic question? Can you tell us a bit more about your first 2 years of starting the company that you're working with? Do you have a co-founder?
So you're asking about the early stages. So I ran into a lot of problems when I started this project. The thing is that I thought, oh wow, this is an amazing idea, I'm going to reach out. And basically what happened is I spent a year with all sorts of people saying they wanted to be involved and then not doing anything. So it was like 1 year of just ideation. I probably produced 100 pages of documentation on what the big project was. I literally at one point had 40 people all over India, top people in IT, saying, yeah, we're going to do stuff. I spent like 1/3 of my time managing people that did nothing. So it was a real struggle. It was very disappointing. Actually, the card game came out of that. It was like I was sitting there and saying, you know, I'm so tired of not doing something. I want to create something that's so low tech that I can just build it like that. And that was great, because then suddenly there were a lot of people saying, oh wow, that's a cool idea. So that was kind of, I'm a solo founder. And I actually went to Ahmedabad for 15 months to a couple of incubators there. which was really hard for me because I believe that Goa is the best place in the whole country for creative companies especially. I think creative souls are kind of withering away in the traffic and the noise and the smells of Mumbai and Bangalore. So anyways, okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Over to Jason. And we are open to questions. You can ask questions at the end of their session. They are there. And also, we are opening the session to networking once all the speakers are done. If you have any questions, maybe at the end of the session as well, you can ask them. So, over to you, Jason.
Cool. Alright. So this thing is called Starting Up, right? So I'm really not going to focus much on what I'm doing specifically. Just sort of informally discuss some of the stuff that I've learned from being an entrepreneur in general. Okay, so introducing myself, like I said, my name is Jason Fernandes. I run a company called FUNL. I started my first company. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I started my first company at 13. By 16, it was a horizontal web portal called zeocities.com. By 16, I was a reader for Chiba. I was on MTV, CNN, pretty much everywhere. And when I was 23, I invented the world's first internet-based digital video recorder. And when I was 27, I successfully sued MediaCorp for $27 million for groundless threats of copyright infringement. So subsequent to that, I started this company called Smart Club, which you see a lot of stuff over here. This is all related to Smart Club. And now I'm doing FUNL. And I'm going to actually talk a little bit about how I got to FUNL and what I learned from away from Smart Club to FUNL, while we get through this. Gosh. Okay, so I'm going to start with these three topics: choosing where to incorporate, patents and intellectual property, funding, and then finally the bonus is knowing when to pivot. So, choosing where to incorporate. Gosh, this thing is not something weird. Okay, that's another way. Am I pointing in the right direction? Yeah, now you're right. Trying to get the next slide. The next one. The next one. The next one. There we go. Okay, great. So these are some of the things that I was thinking about when I was incorporating. There are obviously like three main areas that I was looking at: India, the United States, and the European Union. So the factors to consider is funding and the market and the schemes. So don't consider sentimentality. Go, for example, I'm looking at you. You really have to think about what is sort of like the best place to set up for your business. So for example, if you happen to be doing something with cryptocurrency, India is not the place to do it, neither is the United States. Europe is probably a good place to do it, which is why I happen to be looking at Europe for my next place. Setting up a company in India really takes a really long time. Shalini can probably help me with that, maybe it's shorter, but for me, I heard it takes like up to a month. For the US, I think we founded FUNL Corp. It took, I think, 3 days before it was actually a full-blown company. And so you really have to think about like which is your market. Like so, with the product that we're doing, our market would be the United States and India. But because we're selling cryptocurrency tokens, neither the United States or India are a good place to do a cryptocurrency sale from. So we basically have to have a third country where we're doing cryptocurrency sales, and that's a completely different country from either of our markets. So it's sort of something that you have to like really think about what is the best thing for you specifically based on what you're doing, and also for example, your particular funding, like how you're supposed to get funding. Because a lot of things, a lot of investors will not invest in you if you're too far away, right? So for example, even investors like in Bombay are going to be reluctant to invest in a company that's actually, I'm going to get into funding later. But yeah, even an investor in Bombay will be reluctant to invest in a company that's based out of Goa. And the investors in Goa, the ones that I interacted with are not as risk averse as investors from other places in India. So, for example, Bombay and Bangalore, for example, are much better places to set up companies. And also, you got to think about respectable power supply. That's something you should really think about. Okay, so patents. One of the things is Shalini talked about is patents. So that's my patent. I invented the world's first internet-based visual video recorder. One of the things that we really had to think about is whether we want to do a patent in the US or in like various different countries. The thing that what really matters is, again, going back to where your market is, right? So if your market is in the US, you want to make sure you're protected there. Even if you're setting up in India first and then you plan to go over there, it's a really good idea to get an international patent. It costs a lot more. And also, I believe it only covers certain countries. It doesn't cover Thailand or South Korea, which you have to get those manually. But the United States, if you just get a US patent, pretty much anybody can do what you're doing elsewhere because you basically already revealed what you're doing, and it's not like other countries that you just patent it, and you won't be able to do exactly what you're doing just if you sort of started in a different country. So, and the other thing is that people tend to think patents are everything, but a lot of things that's really not really thought about is protecting the patent. So once you have a patent, if you don't go after other people that are infringing your patent, it's basically void. So you have to really watch what other people are doing and keep abreast of everything to make sure that your patent is protected. And then you have to actually have the money to sue somebody if you have your patent happens to not be protected as somebody that's actually infringing your patent. So you also have to have the legal strength to be able to back up what you have on paper to actually make sure that happens. Let's go next. So here, like I was talking about funding. Sort of your first goal is friends and family. One of the things that really helped me is when I started my first company. When I first started my first company out of college, I went to guys that I had gone to school with, and then I known over several years. And a lot of the guys that I went to school with 10 years ago I ended up investing in Smart Club, and a lot of guys that I've known 15 years ago are investing in my new company. So it's really important to be nice to people around you, because you never know which of those guys are going to suddenly make a ridiculous amount of money doing something, and then you have to go to them at some point and then hit them off for some cash. So yeah, it's fortunate that I had really close friendships with a lot of people, and I'm able to tap into that to get money. Because really, going back to angels and VCs and institutional investors, an angel investor will almost so my experience with angel investors, I did a lot of looking around for angel investors for my first company, Smart Club. It's a really hard sell, because you have to find somebody that just loves your idea and he wants to push it through. And if you have a prototype, obviously that's one of the almost mandatory. So we were actually doing hardware. My previous company, Smart Club, was doing hardware, and getting actually hardware to a place where it's a working prototype is much harder than you would possibly imagine. You look at Samsung, and it takes them a year to put a product together, but these guys have thousands of people making decisions that you have to make in a fortnight. So hardware, by the way, is something that you really have to be well funded if you're going to actually tackle. So let's see. The other option is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, Greg is an expert on. Greg successfully crowdfunded, and not just successfully crowdfunded in his campaign, but he actually oversubscribed. His was on an Indian website. But one of the things, again, you have to think about if you're crowdfunding is where your market is. So for example, if your market is the United States, you have to basically crowdfund for the most part on Kickstarter. That's the best place to do it. Even the other websites, they're pretty good, but they don't have the same reach that Kickstarter does. And Indiegogo, for example, it's the same sort of situation. It's a lower bar to put stuff on there, but also the amount of money that people put in is much lower than Kickstarter. So if you're going to actually do something, particularly if your market is the US, and you do it from Kickstarter. And again, it goes back to what I was saying, because you have to have a US company to be eligible for Kickstarter. So that's one of the reasons why I registered in the US in the first place. Because I wanted to make sure that everything that we said had a US address on it and everything, to make sure that tomorrow Kickstarter doesn't come by and say, oh, well, y'all have Indian residents or whatever. Well, we have the US company, and the US company is essentially the legal entity that's doing the Kickstarter. So here's a couple of the stages of funding. You have your idea stage. where basically you're funding it yourself. Then you have like a co-founder stage, and then seed funding, and then Series A, B, C, and D. So obviously your first one is Series A. A lot of companies don't get to that point. The main thing is sort of getting enough seed funding from angel investors and stuff to like push it through to the next stage, which is just really, really tough to do in the first place. But it really helps if you have an investor that you know or somebody that you like. Because I found a lot of angel investors would not even bother replying back to you unless the person that put you all in touch happens to be somebody that's really close to them. So I actually tried to find guys that were friends with guys that I wanted to get me to invest in, and then like get them to recommend me. I mean, sometimes in some cases I had the same email go like 3 or 4 times by different people that happen to know them, and then they'll call me back, and then I'll get to talk to them. And even then, after having several people recommend me, in a lot of cases I have somebody say, "Oh well, come to us when you're making money." Oh, here we go. Yeah. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so knowing when to pivot, like this is sort of really important. So like I was saying, I was running a company called SmartClock before. SmartClock was essentially, I wish I had a video on it, I was thinking of bringing it, but it's essentially a hardware device that is a notification device. So what we were doing is we were filtering notifications on the phone and then beaming it wirelessly to a device that we were making. So making the device proved to be much, much, much harder than we actually thought it would be, particularly because manufacturing is so we went and Hong Kong, tried to figure out the cost of all the components and everything. But putting it together and making sure it works and then making sure it's production ready is extremely difficult, and you need like massive amounts of funds. So I managed to raise $25,000 from investors, and then I spent all my money, which was several $1,000s before I even got to that point. And we still ended up not having a finished prototype, and we ended up running out of money. And so actually it grew really fast. So we had, at one point we had 32 interns, 7 interns from BITS, 26 interns from R&D. Like I said, we raised this money, so we were like kind of going full steam ahead. We actually won a bunch of awards. We won, at least we were finalists at the PayU program. We were also finalists at the Chief Minister's Technology Prize. But we actually didn't end up winning. And basically raising funds for hardware is incredibly, incredibly difficult. So I did this for years. I was trying to like get this thing to actually come out, and it was just getting harder and harder. And even after I managed to contact like some of the top investors, like basically one by one, and get them to actually reply back, almost nobody wanted to fund the development of the hardware. They wanted to actually fund me once the hardware already was in sales. And again, funding actual hardware, you need somebody to pay for that. Like you can't get to the sales point if you don't have somebody putting in money in the first place. So at some point, about 6 months ago, I really had to sit down and think about whether this was working and like whether we were going to be able to actually get this funded and actually get this through the door. And it occurred to me that since we were already halfway through on making the app, since we were mostly done making the app that was going to read the information, that maybe we could switch and launch the app first, and then have some extra features that connected with cryptocurrency and blockchain. Because in that case, we could actually do an ICO. That's actually one of the things I want to talk about. But yeah, so we ended up essentially changing gears, and that's worked out pretty well for us so far. We were finalists we were actually chosen to be one of the companies that were featured in the IFI Tech Media Conclave, and then recently, if you can go click twice. So recently we won the startup, the Seaside Startup Summit in the mobile category. That was like a whole bunch of companies that applied, and one more please. And then we were also covered by the Time of India, which is really cool. So slowly, and then also, like just in the last few weeks, the company wasn't even a company until March 1st of this month. So basically 24 days ago is when the company was officially born. And we're already having a lot of interest from like investors and stuff like that. I'm going to take it forward. But that's just something that I learned getting over here, that sometimes you gotta completely change things around, and then so far it's worked pretty well. Let's go one more. So this is the last thing I want to end with this quote. Entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life. Like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can. So this is sort of what motivates all of us, right? So I just thought I'd put it up there because that's sort of what gets me awake in the morning. That I can, if I really do this right, I can make a difference, and I don't have to worry about any of this stuff ever again. So great. With that, thanks very much. Open it it up for questions. Any questions?
You mentioned in geographies. How about Singapore?
Okay, great. Yeah, so Singapore is also a great company to set up an ICO out of, for one. But just even in general, Singapore is one of those countries that is really, really promoted. There, the entrepreneurship is one of the major things. So this is like I was interviewed in Digital Family a little while ago and the title was "Goa should model its IT policy after Singapore." And one of the reasons is they have something known as a pro-enterprise panel in Singapore. And what they do is they match investors. So if you get an investment from an accredited investor in Singapore, they have a scheme where they'll match it up to 85%. And you don't even have to pay interest on that for 3 years. And then if that doesn't work out, it gets converted to equity. So my brother is actually on the panel that does it. My brother lives in Singapore, he's a Singapore citizen. So he's actually on the panel that looks at these companies to determine. And in fact, one of our companies, Record TV, that's a company I just mentioned. The reason it exists is because we were able to find an investor and then the government essentially doubled that money. So the reason it got to the point where it was to where we were able to make bunch of money on it and stuff is because of this government scheme. So this is actually one of the schemes that I proposed to go up, and it's actually ended up in the startup ID policy. As soon as hopefully it gets implemented, we'll still be waiting.
Is there like, do you need to be domiciled there, do you need to be living there, or have a partner there?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what the thing is. So I think you do have to be, or your company at least has to be based out of there. You have information?
One person needs to be a citizen,
Okay.
and then you can have Indians as directors.
Yeah, so a lot of our guys are actually I know one company at least that somehow is operating out of India, but they're officially like a Singaporean already. So another place, like if you're looking at Europe, another place is like Estonia. It's like a really great place to set up a company. They have digital citizenship, which you can get really easily. And a lot of companies, particularly coin companies, like if you're doing an ICO or like blockchain related stuff, coin companies are doing really well in Estonia. So yeah, any other questions?
Oh, you go first, I can ask you.
Any particular reason why investors? So any particular reason why investors are kind of wary of funding development for?
So I tell you, I think investors are incredibly risk averse in India. I've dealt with investors in the US. We tried to get our first company funded. It was significantly easier. I think a lot of people in the first wave of funding ended up getting a bunch of money, and then those ended up not performing. And so now you have to incredibly invest. The investors are so risk averse that they want to come in just to add rocket fuel to what you're already doing. So if you have a working business that's getting a turnover, they would love to jump in and make you expand that to where you have a greater turnover. But they actually don't want to fund innovation. They don't want to fund like something that you're actually trying to do, which is sort of disappointing. I mean, Greg touched on that a little bit. It's sort of disappointing because especially if you're making something like hardware, these things would not get made without money, without somebody putting in money. And in crowdfunding, so crowdfunding itself, like a lot of guys assume that you can crowdfund and you can just set up your own company based off of crowdfunding. It's actually not true. Like, how many of you guys have heard of the Pebble smartwatch? So that was one of the early crowdfunding hits. They made something like $12 million is what its sales is what Pebble made. But like, how many of you guys knew that they actually raised $150,000 before that? So that's what they spent $150,000 solely on the Kickstarter campaign, just to make sure that they got the 12th. So it comes in it's depends on how much you put in, is how much you get out on the other side. So you can't just do a crowdfunding campaign and think that the whole thing is going to get funded, because you still have to handle the promotion, you still have to handle marketing, you still have to handle all that stuff. The crowdfunding campaign itself, he's managed to do it amazingly, and in terms of a really low budget way of getting a large return. But it's something that you have to really study to figure out what are all the options. I mean, you should definitely check with him if that's what you're thinking you're doing. But you really study what are the options and how do I maximize this. So for Kickstarter, we have advanced demographics that say over 55% of Kickstarter users are in the United States. And out of that, over 85% of them are in New York, California, and Texas. So if you happen to be targeting New York, California, and Texas, you definitely need to get on the Kickstarter, and you can actually fund your entire idea if you just Kickstarter goes. Because think about like, those are kind of tiny states. So one of the things that we were doing is we tied up with the biggest newspaper in Texas and got them to agree that they would publish our story. And then we were just looking for people in California and New York. We were basically going to forget the rest of the US and focus only on the US, but focus on only those 3 states. So you can actually target really, really carefully with Kickstarter. But it depends on whether there's. Have you guys heard of Quadcast? Quadcast. It's a website which gives you really detailed statistics on demographic information on certain websites. So Kickstarter was on Quadcast till a few years ago. So we were when we were able to go in there and download a whole bunch of data, demographic data about who is watching it, who is I don't know. Presumably by now that might have changed. It's gotten more international. Singapore has become a huge Kickstarter area. So by the way, Kickstarter Singapore is one of the best places to set up a company. Singapore, Estonia, and in Europe, there are 3 places that I was looking at. One is Berlin. One is and you have Munich, where it's easier to get money, kind of, but it's a really, really expensive place to live. So those are the other things I'm looking at.
Thank you, Jason. Before we call upon Nilakur on stage, we would like to collect the puzzle sheet that we gave you all inside the brochure. We'll be collecting that. We are here. You can just pass it on to us.
This happens like talks, lecture demonstrations, live gigs, presentations, book releases, performances, screenings, and theatres. So with these forms of art, we try to promote, plant critical thinking in people's mind who comes to our events. I would like to show you some posters of the events that I'm doing. So we do a lot of live gigs also. Original music. This is Infal Talkies. Infal Talkies is a band from Manipur who does songs of activists and the human rights abuses that is going in Manipur. So we give a platform to them. So this is Gurpreet. Since NGO workers who goes there and works there, so they come and share their ideas with us. Yes, and for social causes of Goa and the cultural aspect of Goa and the cultural anthropological aspect, we have programs like the origin of Ajuluja tiles. Where did it come from? So like anti-coal movement, there are activists who comes and speak about why coal is not important here and why it is bad. Yeah. Then we have protest poems also. Then a lot of environmental programs also we do. This is a documentary called Birds of Goa, and as you know, so poetry happens, poetry, music happens. These are just the snapshots of the events that we've been doing. We have more. So this is a book launch happened. It's a poetry book, but we try to do it a little bit interesting, not only the reading, but with a little bit music behind, which enhances the whole. Yeah. So yeah, this guy has traveled. Simon has traveled from Australia to Africa without hitchhiking, without any money, and without taking any flight. So it took him like 3 years, and he told us his story about his story. And this is about this Sagarmala project that is happening, like river linking project, and there are activists who are talking about why it is bad linking of rivers are bad, why river desalination should not happen, and what effect it can have. This is another poster of crimes in the high seas. As you can see, it's like illegal fishing in like deep seas, which we're not very aware of. Yeah, this is another news film. It's an interpretation of Tashe Days of Rabindranath Tagore. It's his film, but these films are also independent new films, which I believe people should see and know about what is the contemporary scene is happening on movies. So this is generally the event scene. I do these events every Monday in Asagaon, and I started doing it in different other places also. But this has been happening for last 4.5 years. Every Monday we pick up a topic, doing what is doing. But it is by Vimlendu. Vimlendu is an environmentalist. He's on a UN climate panel.
I think conversations are very, very important. Dialogue is very, very important. The times that we all are living in right now. It's a very, very challenging situation. People don't talk to each other, cultures don't interact with each other, and therefore forums like us really provide opportunity for people to interact, opportunities for different voices to come before. And in a place like Goa or in a country like India, it's very, very important that more such happens in our daily life. So I really want to congratulate Nilakur and
She's going to start talk about the starting up legalities, and you can ask her questions based on that as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'll give you a brief bio about SimSim. I'm the founder of SimSim Advisory Private Limited, and I know it sounds like a very frivolous name for a business and legal advisory, and that is precisely what I was going for, to set it apart from all the legal this and lex that. I wanted something that is off from that. I am from a physics background. I hold two master's degrees in physics and biophysics, and then I have come to law and part in a bit. How do we know what we are going for? What kind of entity? Right? Should we be a partnership? Should we be an LLP? Are most of us incorporated or have some sort of an entity in place? How many of us don't have an entity in place? Okay. See, the reason SimSim was born, I didn't need a company, right? But the reason was I was interacting a lot with startups. I was interacting a lot on a day-to-day basis with entrepreneurs, and I wanted to experience beforehand what questions they're going to come up with. So to preempt that, I wanted to experience that, and therefore I came up with this idea of having a private limit, thinking about what to do next. So what entity shall I be? Should I be a sole proprietor, a partnership, a one-person company, an LLP, or a private limited? The reason this graph is like this is because on either end, sole proprietor and partnership, and somewhere between sole proprietor and private limited is your one-person company. Somewhere between your partnership and private limited is your LLP. If you're thinking of a sole proprietor, you're the only person. You don't have to worry about any other licenses other than the ones that are required in your trade. Take your place in case something happens to you. The difference between one person and a sole proprietorship I just explained. We can get into this in detail if anyone has any questions. Private limited company. Now, private limited company has been there forever, and it is a good way to go if you know exactly where you're going, if you know exactly what your plan is, if you have the funding in place, and if you have a clear idea of where you and your co-founder, the directors, members, everyone stands. It is the most popular form. However, if you're just starting off on a business, this is not something I would recommend. It's a better idea to go with a partnership. It can be dissolved easily, whereas dissolving a private limited takes longer time. And as Jason mentioned, incorporating as well takes time. It takes about a month, 30 to 45 working days if all goes well, right? But you can do an LLP or a partnership in maybe a week. So those are things to consider. Having said that, investors will not invest in a partnership. I know as startups, you all probably know that. They will only invest either in an LLP or a private limited. The thing about private limited is that it can go on in perpetuity. So with partnership, what happens is if anything happens to you or one of your partners, That you have to build that clause into your membership. What happens is that the partners are jointly and severally liable for any default or any loan taken by one of the partners. All the partners are liable. But with an LLP, you can limit your liability to the extent of your contribution. There are more LLPs being formed these days. One person company, there are a handful of cases that have been filed because people still don't know how it's going to go, and because that OPC still shows up in your name, right? The whole point of bypassing the sole proprietor is you don't want people to know you're a sole proprietor. But with one person company, they will still know. So it's doesn't have too many takers. You can just get a sample template from the internet if you don't want to spend money on a lawyer. Or you can come to 91 Springboard. I'm mentoring from April onwards. But here's the thing, you have to have these papers in place because on a nice sunny day, nobody looks at the papers, right? Because everything is going well between everyone. You like your employees like you because he's the first employee or the second one, and everything is hunky-dory. But the paper always gets pulled out when times are bad. Okay, and when times are bad, it could be between you and your co-founder. It could be between you and your partner. It could be between you and your first and most trusted employee. So you have to have these things in place. I'll tell you, and the reason I'm talking about it is because these are real life cases I'm dealing with these days. More than, yes, the standard incorporations and drafting and so on does happen. But he wants money for it. So where do we go? He's not the applicant is the company. He won't hand in the finances, he won't hand in the papers, he won't make anyone else the signatory to the bank accounts because he's not getting what he wants. And there is no, they're not ready to sit across the table and discuss this in an amicable fashion. So, had they foreseen this, now I know you don't want to foresee all this with your best friend or your business partner or the person who is bringing in, part of the share that you need for the company. But you have to put something in place. Okay, things have to be in black and white. Because when time comes for exit, it is not pretty if you don't have everything written down already. Okay, so you are supposed to be compulsory before the 2013 Act. The 2013 Common Seal is not compulsory anymore, but it is advised that you have one. Bank accounts, and again, if you're going in for a bank account, I'm speaking from experience. All the directors should be a signatory, or you have a third-party, unbiased person who is a signatory, who is the authorized signatory. Because if one director is a signatory and it's time for his exit and he doesn't get what he wants, he may create problems. Subscription, you need your statutory audit person. You have to have your first board meeting within a stipulated time. Get your GST and FEMA in place, and drafting of minutes. So all this should be typically taken care of by your company secretary, chartered accountant, whoever's handled your incorporation. And statutory, you have your recital between whom and where and what date. What is the job description and the time period. So if you are going to put them on probation first, then you can just include that in this contract and say that this will continue if they're going from probation to full-time employment. Remuneration, any kind of perks, leave, termination, and exclusivity. You have to make sure that they are not, if they are moonlighting, it's not in the same field, right? Because then you don't want your work to be taken away and someone else benefits from it. What are their responsibilities and duties? And confidentiality. I cannot stress enough on the confidentiality. With contract employees, it's slightly different. Obviously, if someone is a contract employee, either he can work with you part-time or he can be with you full-time but for a limited period of time. Now, it is up to you to decide whether you want that person to, he will most likely have some other gigs going on the side, right? So it is up to you, your comfort level, whether you want to keep him on full-time for those 6 months or 8 months, because you don't want your work being shared. Intellectual property. Now, with employer-employee contracts, the intellectual property is very straightforward. Anything that they create on premises belongs to working for you as a contract person, so I can use it for someone else's project. Okay, it is up to your comfort level whether you want that or you don't want that, but you have to specify it. With master service agreement, typically there is one main agreement and then there are a bunch of smaller SOWs under that. You can decide whether you want the remuneration, the period, the milestone for payment, whether you want it in the main agreement or you want it in the SOW. Okay, because each SOW the costing might be different, the time period might be different. So it is up to you to decide that, but these are the clauses that you have to keep in mind. Breach is one of the essential features in a master service agreement. What happens if one or the other party breaches not able to provide your submit your work on time and severability? This is the most important thing. If you don't have any of the others, that is fine. This is what you're looking for. Define your business clearly. Define who your competitors are, define what is confidential info. If I am, let's say, an electronic health record service provider, I have different definition of confidential info. If you are a software person, let's say you're developing an app, you have a different idea of a confidential info. So you have to define that. You have to define what are the proprietary rights. You have to include non-solicitation of your own employees because you have put in work. Jason asked about trade secret. But trade secret is an important way to go, and the reason is this, that ideas are not protected under the Indian intellectual property, under any intellectual property law anywhere in the world. Ideas are not protected. It is the physical manifestation, the embodiment that can be protected. So if I have an idea sitting in my head and I put it on paper, no law allows me to protect it. So what do? I either have it, I write a book about it, or write a song and I copyright it, or I make it into a nice name like SimSim and I trademark it, or I put that invention. Secret is a very valid form of protection. It is not codified in India, but it comes under contract law, and I think the courts are getting more and more aware of this, and they are talking about it in their judgment, and I think we as business owners should make use. If you remember the CRT monitor, the television that came in, right? How many years was that television on market, in the market before the flat screens and LCDs and plasmas of that you have today came? At least 15 years or so. So he had that much time to monetize his invention. But what happens with an app? You write an app today, within a week, within 2 weeks maybe. I'm not a tech person, but I'm sure you will know that. How much time does it take you to reverse engineer an app once you see it on the Play Store? Right? So would you be willing to put in lakhs of rupees and sit in 2-hour, 3-hour discussion with your patent agent? I don't know, if I have a trade secret for playing Monopoly, right? I'm not going to make money off of it, but I say it's a secret and I keep it under lock and key. It's pointless. I mean, I can get a trade secret for it. I can get everyone to sign off, but it's pointless. So you keep it a secret only if you're going to make money off of it. And you have to take reasonable steps to make sure it is a secret. Now, the Indian courts have been giving judgments in favor of maintaining trade secrets. We'll come back to some of the questions. Next one. So what could be a trade secret in your line of work? It cannot be in your head and you say, I have a trade secret here. No, that doesn't work. It has to be written down and it has to be kept under lock and key. And whoever you're sharing with, you have to make sure minimum number of people come in contact with it. And when you are sharing information with them, make sure you get it inked. If it is not signed, it is not a secret. It must be of value to you and your organization. Appropriate legal framework must not be in the public domain. and a protection period, so I don't have to disclose it to anyone. What are the disadvantages? Disadvantages is that someone could be working on a patent or some kind of an innovation or some kind of a product in the market which I have kept as a trade secret. But the moment he puts his product out of the market, my trade secret is useless. Right? So then it is no longer a trade secret, of course. But yes, you have no control over who else is working on it. Because you know it's a secret, but they have come upon the idea by themselves. If embodied, there's and metadata. Okay. The remedies for infringement, if someone steals my trade secret, what do? I can go to the court, file, under equity, the courts are going to look at me and say, okay, fine, you were harmed, things were stolen from you. There was a breach of confidence, your NDA was breached. So all those things, but you have to show that you took reasonable care. The problem with trade secret is that all the onus of proving everything in the presentation. I do have more information on patents, but if I start talking on that, you will never get to go home. So if you have any particular questions, please ask.
What would be the advantages of registering a company as an LLP instead of a private limited, and disadvantages in startups?
In a startup scenario, you're looking at the same number of compliances. LLP is slightly easier because there's an agreement, and you can put whatever you want, how you want your business to function in the agreement. There is, I think, a search fee for your name, but that the government requires, but I think that's 1,000 rupees, and that is about it. So it depends on your comfort level. LLP and private limited is just that the partnership agreement is there in place. Whereas here you have your memorandum and articles of association, so it's a little more long-winded. Whereas this is clearer and crisper.
Is the ability to transition from an LLP to private limited?
There is no transition. You shut one down and you open the other.
Transfer of assets.
Transfer of assets can be done. That's not a big issue. Write it down, and if it's in a soft copy, then I can take care of the computer. Very few people have access to that data, or I write it down, pen and paper, old school, and keep it in the lock and key. And very few people know the complete workings. So everyone else just knows on a need-to-know basis. Like the HR person will only know what is related to the HR part. Right? The developers will know only what is related to the developer part.
Maybe I need a little more insight into this, but
If you have, we can take this off. Yeah.
OPC as good as an LLC, ma'am, you spoke about this. You spoke about this scenario where we have people coming in for like freshers or with very basic level of skills, and then we train them up, and then they suddenly disappear one day. And then you find that they have joined some competitors. I didn't get you exactly. What are the measures you were talking about?
No, I was talking of poaching, where someone that who's been with you for 3-4 years wants to start a competing business, and he takes all these people that you have trained. Yeah, I know, but you get them to sign that again when they're leaving and exit while they're exiting.
You can ask them to.
You can have an exit interview.
You can have an exit interview, but can you ask them to sign it?
A non-compete is a very dicey thing.
A non-compete should be a part of their.
You can't say non-compete, right? Because if I am my basic.
Francis? So we'll pass this around to you guys in a bit, and you can just collect it. So as a part of